What's up, y'all?
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Young and Married.
Let's go.
We are here to help your marriage and your relationship thrive.
Yeah.
So today's hot topic is all about trust.
Okay.
Now, we're talking about trust in marriage, but if you're engaged or dating, you can obviously take these tips and tools with you as well. But we're talking about trust in marriage.
Okay.
And so the first question mark that we're posing to each other and to our viewers is, should your spouse have the passwords to all of your accounts? I'm talking...
Okay.
I'm not talking your Netflix or Hulu account, because everybody has a password to that.
Let's go.
Okay. I think Netflix was trying to cut down on that.
They haven't figured it out yet,
No.
I don't think.
No.
How to stop these folks in the street, these ninjas,
Yeah.
from sharing their account with like 10 of their cousins.
Yes, because I saw a meme where somebody was like, I know my family's always going to have the lines of communication open with me. And then he said, because first of all, I'm the one with the Netflix password. So he's like, my family's not going nowhere.
Listen.
People share Amazon accounts.
Yes.
I mean, we
Yes.
actually are not a couple that shares password. We don't have families that share like Netflix passwords.
No,
and
because it's something about the Watsons is that I'm paying for this.
yeah.
So
And
if
then my
I'm paying
parents-
for this, then
my parents aren't Watsons, but my parents are also very big on morals. So they're like, oh, that's morally wrong to have a Netflix account and then 15 people are. So they have Netflix, but we don't know their password.
Right. Well, yes, I'm a pastor, so,
Oh, Lord. This is why we just need to jump into the topic.
This podcast is called Young and Married. It's not called Pastoring 101 with Mark and Jen. So here's my thing is that I won't touch the morality of it.
Okay.
But my personal reason is that I'm paying for it.
Right.
So no, you can't just hold or use my Netflix password.
And I'm saying that because my dad doesn't even drive over the speed limit. So I'm assuming that is why they don't share their Netflix password. And listen, they're not out here just condemning people that.
Right.
But for them, I think that might be it, because
here's the question: are you going to hell if you share your Netflix password?
I sure hope not, because there's a lot of people that I know then that are going to hell in a handbasket. If you can go to hell for that. So I hope not.
I hope not too.
Listen, we don't share our Netflix password, so we good over here either way.
Yeah,
But I'm like, Jesus, if people are going to hell for sharing Netflix passwords, I actually know a lot of folk that I initially thought were going to make it in, and now they are going to here depart from me.
And you ask yourself, what kind of God is that, right? Is that a petty God? That's going to be like, I'm sending you to hell. Like, you came to church, you prayed, you serve faithfully, you love your neighbor. Sharing your Netflix password technically isn't in the Bible. Right? So is it a petty God?
Well, you have to then say, like, is it a lie? Like, are you lying to Netflix because you know full well you don't help pay that bill?
But Netflix be lying to me. See, I said I wasn't going to get into the...
But Netflix isn't saved. It's an unsaved entity, so that's not... We need to stick to the topic.
The way they be raising these fees.
Oh, boy.
Without telling folk.
Yeah.
They be lying to me. All right, keep going.
All right, so the first question is, should your spouse have the password to your accounts? And we're talking all of your accounts, your bank account.
Right.
Especially if you are a couple that chooses to have separate bank accounts. So if you have separate bank accounts, do they have the password to your account? Do they have the password to your electronic devices?
Yep.
Do they have the password to basically your phone?
Right.
Well, that includes the electronic device. Anything that needs a password.
Right.
Should your spouse have the access to the password? My answer is a simple yes.
Yep. No doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's where trust comes in. If I have a separate account and I can't give my spouse the password because my fear is they're going to clean me out or they're going to spend something without discussing it with me first.
Right.
So even if they're not clearing you out, but they're just going to make purchases that you all did not discuss. Mm-hmm. The answer is not to keep changing your password. The answer is to get to the root of the issue and figure out, why are they doing this? And why are you, instead of confronting the issue, just glossing over it by continuously changing your password?
Yeah. Yeah. I think people don't understand the difference between accountability and mistrust.
That's good.
People think that because I'm holding you accountable and I'm watching you and I'm monitoring you, then I don't trust you. And that's not the case.
Right.
I'm just in your life to be an accountability partner, and everybody needs that.
Yeah.
And so because I'm the person that, knows how to get into your stuff.
Yeah.
It's not to harm you, it's to help you. Mm-hmm. It's to help you keep you from you. And we all have a you inside of you that if we give it too much leeway and freedom, it will cause self-destruction.
Yeah.
And so that's why God says you need a spouse.
Right.
Because for you to be the best version of yourself, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, Mark. And I agree, because I think also when you trust your spouse, you don't take having their passwords to the extreme. So I have the password to all of your accounts, but I really don't open your phone. I really don't open your emails. I really don't check any other accounts that you may have going.
Right.
And I think that's where trust comes in. So I think couples have to understand that Jen having Mark's passwords is not a sign that Jen doesn't trust Mark. Right. Jen using those passwords every day, multiple times a day, would be a sign that Jen doesn't trust Mark. But I trust that you're not sending emails you shouldn't send.
Right.
I trust that you're not DMing or receiving DMs that you shouldn't be receiving or sending.
Yeah.
I trust that you're not doing anything crazy with your phone. And so I don't check your DMs. I don't check your emails. And you don't do that to me.
Right.
So that's where trust comes in. But also, Mark, think about the practicality of your spouse having your passwords.
Come on.
If something, God forbid, were to happen to either one of us, you're able to get in and say, do I have a clue as to maybe the last message Jen sent or the last email she received or things of that nature. And so also, y'all are out here saying you can't have the password to my device.
Yeah.
And God forbid, and I don't even mean something horrendous like they get kidnapped and you never see them again. I'm just talking about they have an accident. Listen, I have an acquaintance that just came out of a horrific car accident.
Okay. And
she said that she was in the car by herself. Children were already dropped at school. Her husband was at home working. Right. She was in a horrific car accident, and she said she was unconscious for some time.
Wow.
But her husband was able, I think she does a lot of the bills from her phone and things. He was able to still keep things moving.
Right.
So he's number one worried because she's unconscious.
Right.
But then he was able to keep certain things moving because they share passwords.
Right.
So he was able to get into her phone and see what needed to be said. He could text her boss even. But you're out here saying, oh, you can't have my password. And when a life event like that happens that they didn't see coming, now what?
Now what? Because we're in this together.
Right.
How can you do this together effectively if you don't know everything that you need to know? Mm-hmm. And here's my thing, Jen, is that people get they get in their feelings when it comes to marriage, as if other partnerships in life don't operate a certain way. If we're business partners, you best believe I have access to everything.
Right.
Because we're in this together. Mm-hmm. But how come when it comes to marriage, I get a little bit unsettled,
That's
or
a good
I'm
point.
secretive because I don't want you to know or have access to everything that I have. It doesn't make sense. It works in business, but yet when it comes to marriage, oh, she don't trust me.
Yep.
Oh, he don't trust me. No, it's because you're trying to, number one, either hide something,
right,
or there's something about the marriage you don't trust fully, so you don't want to give everything away.
That's good.
And marriage doesn't work unless you fully trust the person
exactly
in every area, every corner, every aspect of your life.
You know what I just thought about, Mark?
Yeah.
As an interjection, how crazy would it be? So if you're just meeting us for the first time, by the way, we're pastors.
Yeah.
And I thought about just this past Sunday.
Okay.
Somebody from our team was helping set up your iPad. You were off doing other things. And they said to me, hey, PJ, what's pastor's passcode for his iPad? Yeah. How crazy would it be if I was like, I don't know, you're going to have to ask him. They literally assumed that I would know the password.
Right.
So that lets me know that even other people feel... And this was a single person who was like, hey, what's Pastor Mark's password so I can help you get his iPad set up? Yeah. So obviously she feels like... hey, I'm single, but they're married, so they should have each other's password.
Right.
I'm like, it's just a funny story that I thought about. I'm like, it would have been crazy if I was like, well, girl, I don't know his password. You're going to have to ask him. She probably would have been like, okay.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary to think that two people walk together as close as you can walk with anyone in a relationship in life, and they don't share passwords. I think it's dangerous because on one hand, you feel like I'm good,
right?
But you don't understand who is against your marriage. You don't, not a person. I'm talking about spiritually.
Yeah.
You don't understand that the enemy doesn't like marriage.
Absolutely.
He hates marriage.
Yeah.
And so if he sees that you're not strong enough in that area, that's the area he's going to attack. So now you're out here and you don't share passwords and you think you're good today.
Yeah.
Until something comes up, and it's not really about you're not sharing your password. It's more about now you're keeping secrets.
Yeah.
Now you're keeping secrets because something you should tell the person, you're not telling them because they don't have your password, versus if it's an open book, they always could see.
And the enemy's always looking for any little loophole. The Bible says it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. So it starts with, you don't need my password. But then like you're saying, a temptation comes in.
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't even have to be another person. It could just be a thing that you shouldn't be involved in.
Right.
And now it's easier to slip because... oh, I can hide. The enemy loves darkness.
He loves darkness. And what we don't understand is that a password is connected to every single temptation today that you could possibly fall into.
That's good.
I don't care. Everybody struggles with something.
Right.
And I guarantee you there's a password somehow linked to your struggle.
That's true, Mark.
Whether it's lust, whether it's low self-esteem, whether it's jealousy, whether it's envy, right? A password is linked to that,
right?
Because our lives are so digital today.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like God has put someone in your life to walk through life together with and to be successful. You have to open everything.
That's good.
Whether it's greed, right? You just are greedy and you're always after money.
Right.
There's a password linked to your money.
Yeah.
And if you're not open with your spouse about that, then you can fall into some hot water. And so I absolutely believe passwords should be shared. It's a place of strength. And so I think that's a really good question. And the reason why we bring it up is because most people, not most, but maybe a lot of marriages struggle in that area. You would think that people just share everything.
Yeah, no, they don't.
It depends on how you came into the marriage. It depends on how you grew up.
Yes. Yep.
What your home environment was like, how you saw relationships, and maybe you were in an environment where not everything was shared.
Right.
Bank accounts weren't shared. All these things weren't shared. And now you feel like I'm an individual. So there's certain things that stay with me.
Right.
And we just don't believe that.
No. So another thing that has to do with trust is whether or not your spouse should have a tracker on their phone for you to follow. Now, I feel like, Mark, this one can get tricky. This one might not be as straightforward as passwords. Now, I did hear someone online years ago say, I have a tracker on my husband's phone so that I can see when he's 5 minutes from home so I can make sure his dinner is piping hot. And I saw all these single women that were saying, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. When I get married, and I'm sitting there as a married woman, been married longer than said person, and I'm literally like, girl, so you can have his dinner piping hot when he gets home? I don't have a tracker on your phone, and isn't your dinner hot?
Every night.
Okay.
Most nights. I'm not going to make it perfect. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But, sometimes when you say every night, people like, y'all know it's not every night. So just to be a little bit, I'm listening. You do a great job. I'm on this tangent.
I am not worried about these social media people that want to say that sometimes your food is lukewarm.
Trying to clear things up. But I like my food actually really hot.
Even, sometimes even if it's hot, you'll still reheat it anyway. But I felt like for me, that's not a reason to have a tracker on your phone.
And do we believe her?
I did not personally. But, and the reason why I say this gets tricky is we are not the couple that just has trackers on each other's phones.
No.
What we do make each other aware of is where we're going to be at what time. So you've already told me some things that you're going to be doing next week.
Right.
I've already told you some appointments I have at the end of this week.
Right.
And what we do is we put it in our phone, and I'm very specific, y'all.
Right.
If I'm meeting someone somewhere, I will put in my husband's calendar what time I'm supposed to meet them and where exactly I'm supposed to be.
Right.
Because God forbid something happens to me like happened to my acquaintance who got into that car accident.
Yeah.
My husband will be able to look at the time and say she should be in this general vicinity because she was supposed to be with this person at this time. But my husband doesn't have a tracker to make sure that I actually go there because he's assuming that if Jen said she's meeting Laura for coffee at Starbucks, that's where Jen's going to be.
It's no way to have a marriage. My philosophy, I think our philosophy is trust over trackers.
That's
trust
a good one.
over trackers because there is something about a tracker that seeps into someone's subconscious and says, am I leaning on this tracker because we don't have enough trust in our marriage? And am I relying on the tracker to be trust when a tracker cannot be trust?
So the motive matters.
Yes.
Because let's just say, Mark, I'm going somewhere that you and I have never been before.
Right.
And I have to travel by myself or with just a few other women.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be a time in that moment to say, Mark, we're going here. We've never been here. My friends have never been here. I just want you to make sure that we get there safely.
Right.
And if I say to you, Mark, I'm just going to put a tracker on so you can literally watch my journey, I think that's different.
That's different.
It's the nonstop tracker.
Yep.
That I think for us, like you said, presents an issue.
Yeah.
Because we feel just for the day to day, your spouse told you they're going to work, running an errand and coming home, and you have to track that every day. That's
a lot. And the way I feel like is that, I'm a grown man.
Right.
I'm a grown man. And ain't no way I'm going to be in a house where somebody's tracking my moves. Because I'm a grown man. And if my
you know they're going to come in the comments now.
Listen.
Some lady somewhere is going to say.
Man.
Some lady somewhere is going to say, and what does that mean?
It means I'm a grown man and you ain't about to be out here tracking me.
What I do like about you, though, Mark, is you want me to give you that space, but you give me the same space. So when I say, Mark...
Oh, yeah, because it's kind of grimy to be like, you ain't tracking me, but I'm definitely going to track you.
So that's also...
That's controlling,
not
too.
Correct. So that means that the trust is only one-sided in the relationship. If one spouse says, I track you, but you don't track me, that is wrong.
And I just want to pause and say, if you're a female out here and he has a tracker on your phone, you don't have a tracker on his phone, I need you to look at that a little bit deeper.
Correct.
Like, we're not here to stir up trouble.
Right.
We're trying to help you.
Yeah.
But I think you need to look at that a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. Does this guy have controlling tendencies?
Right.
Because it's a tracker today, it's trouble tomorrow.
Right.
Because it's amazing how things begin to grow. And all of a sudden, you're in a situation where you're like, how in the world did this guy flip on me?
Correct.
It's because it started with a tracker.
Absolutely, Mark. I agree with that. And I know some couples are going to say, well, I have a tracker on my spouse's phone. All we're saying is if you have to track them every day, y'all might want to look a little deeper and say, do we really trust each other? Because you're saying you're tracking their car. What else are you tracking? Are you also tracking their phone? Are you also tracking what they're watching? Are you tracking who they talk to? I mean, I think by the time you get to a level in your marriage where you believe you have to have a tracker on their phone for every single day, day-to-day normal activities, check your marriage and see if, mate, you don't find that there's other ways in which you're tracking them. Yeah. And then say, wait a minute, where has the trust gone in this marriage?
Yeah. I think a tracker is useful. Your scenario was great. Mm-hmm. I think a tracker is helpful in that situation.
Yeah.
I think a tracker is also useful if someone is unhealthy in an area.
Okay.
So your marriage has gone through some kind of brokenness, or one party is broken in a certain area and they're struggling.
Yes.
And they need a level of accountability.
Yes.
That may include a tracker.
That's good, Mark.
It's like a tracker can be like training wheels.
That's good. And because let's say, to be specific, let's say a spouse stepped out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the other spouse has decided, I still want to make this work.
Right.
There may be a season where they're like, I kind of just need to know where you're going for security, though, because you used to tell me you were going to go play basketball and you weren't out here playing basketball.
Right.
Or a spouse has gotten into alcohol or some other type gambling, some other type of habit. So I think that's good. But you know what's interesting about training wheels is eventually they have to come off.
Listen, if y'all ain't know we were preachers.
Training with I might need some organ here, okay?
Yeah.
I don't want these new school strings for this point. I want an organ. Wow. I said your training wheels have to come off because at some point, when are you going to trust what you have learned and ride that bike with the lessons that you've learned? Where's the organ? Okay.
See, this is what I'm talking about too far. This is what I'm talking about too far.
Training wheels come off. Why? Because at some point, you should have learned to ride the bike enough that you're now stable, you're now secure, and you don't need the training wheels. So if your marriage has gone through a broken season, at some point you have to stop holding it over your spouse's head. And at some point they need to also get up and start walking again.
Absolutely. Because how is it going to survive? So you're right, because you can't ride a bike with you don't see a 20-year-old riding a bike with training wheels.
Right. Unless that had been me, because I didn't learn to ride a bike. I'd have had
Right. But you're not riding a bike with training wheels because you'd rather not ride a bike.
That's true.
Then ride a bike with training wheels.
That's true.
You get to a certain age and you're like, I'm not going to be caught out here riding a bike with training wheels.
Right. Just fly me where I need to go because I'm not riding with training wheels.
Listen, so your marriage, trust has to get to a place where you say, we have been doing this long enough, or we have repaired this well enough.
Right.
To a degree where now we don't need training wheels.
Exactly.
And when we take these training wheels off, you are going to wobble.
Yeah.
You are probably going to fall. But it's possibly more detrimental and dangerous to the relationship to put the tracker back on.
Yeah.
Because the tracker becomes training wheels and you're too old to have a tracker. Y'all been doing this too long to have a tracker. And sometimes you just got to say, hey, if you're going to fall, you fall. We kind of get back on the bike.
Yeah.
And we go forward.
Yeah.
But putting on training wheels is going to put us too far back.
Yeah.
Putting a tracker on is going to put us too far back.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're both questioning, do we have enough trust?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why we feel like a tracker at its foundation, if the relationship is heavy, you shouldn't need it.
Correct.
You shouldn't need it. If the relationship needs to be rehabilitated, then you might need to rehab it with a tracker, just to build the trust again. And I think that's why trust is so important in relationships, because you can't be successful without it. You can't really rock with this person without it. And I think marriage is just like other relationships, other partnerships, that if trust is not there, it absolutely doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree.
And so you have to ask yourself, do I have this tracker on my spouse's phone for the right reasons?
Right.
For the right reasons. I think sometimes also trackers are put on not because of the spouse that has the tracker, meaning the spouse that's being followed, being monitored. It's not that they're wrong. It's that there's something wrong with the person that needs to monitor.
Right.
They haven't detached well enough. They're not strong enough. They're not confident enough to be like, I'm good if I don't know where they are every single moment.
Right.
So it says something about your marriage if you have a tracker.
Right.
It either says you're not healthy enough, you're not strong enough.
Yeah.
You haven't worked on trust enough. And now you have to resort to something like that.
I agree.
But it actually does say something. It does say something.
It says something. Absolutely.
It does say something. I remember I told this story, actually, it must have been Sunday, when I told the story of you going to the store.
Yeah.
And you were just going to pick up a few things, and the store's around the corner.
Yep.
And an hour went by, then 2 hours went by. By 2 hours, I was getting frantic, worried, like what's going on? And I was like, I got to figure out how to find this woman. Like, my wife is out here in these streets and she's not responding to my text. She's not responding to my phone. It's funny because in those moments, I wasn't thinking, man, she must be at some dude's house.
Right.
I was thinking something happened to you.
Yeah.
And that also is a sign of trust in your
Correct.
marriage. Like, where does your brain go when adversity hits? I wasn't like, man, she must be caught up. She must be caught out here. Nah, it was, I know my wife, and she must be in some kind of peril. So right before I was going to get out there and go look for you, I remembered, hey, your device is connected to your computer through the cloud. Let me find my phone, and I'll be able to track you. And when I saw where you were out here just chilling with your friend at her house, drinking tea, laughing it up, your phone was in the car. So I couldn't get a hold of you. When you got home, I was like, how were you at so-and-so's house? And you didn't tell me. You're like, man, I forgot.
Yeah.
I went
and it's
over
funny
there.
because I stopped by her house for what was supposed to be 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I should have known better that.
When y'all two get together.
Yeah. So, and she was actually at church on Sunday and she was laughing because she's like, Pastor didn't put my name in the sermon, but I knew he was talking about me.
Yeah.
She was like, because I know when we get together, it's not going to be 5 minutes. So I literally left my phone in the car because I'm like, I'm just going to be 5 minutes. I'm picking something up from her house.
Right.
And it did turn into like a 90-minute stop. But I like what you said about your mind first went to something happened to Jen, not Jen is out here for the streets.
Yeah. And that's why, Trust is something that you build over time.
Yeah.
And when it's strong, you don't think certain things.
That's it.
And so it's funny because when you came back in the house and you're like, man, I'm sorry I didn't let you know where I was. It's not like I was like, oh, all right, because you didn't tell me where you were. now I got to get a tracker on your phone.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I forgot. And I think that's like, you have to let trust build your marriage, not a tracker, not your trepidation. Let trust build the marriage, because how would that person feel if you're like, okay, now we got to go to a tracker level?
Yeah,
just
especially
because I made a
you've
mistake.
seen that they were not doing anything unsavory or out of character.
Yeah.
And then you're still going to put a tracker on. I mean, that would have made me feel absolutely horrible. Yeah,
consider all of the negativity that would have been brought into our marriage just in that one move. If I was like, all right, now I got to get a tracker.
Right.
Now you're wondering, does he trust me? Now you're wondering, does he believe me?
Yeah.
Now you're like, I'm in an environment where I can't make a mistake.
Correct.
I can't even be human, because then he's going to go next level. And it's like, what's going on? All this type of stuff. So I think we need to be careful of certain negative aspects of tools that we have at our disposal.
Yeah.
And, I think also, before we get up out of here, I hit on something when I mentioned controlling tendencies.
Yeah.
A tracker can be detrimental to a relationship because it can actually promote controlling behavior.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but that's true.
Like, you're not a controlling person until now you have this tracker.
Right.
And now you're actually starting to lean towards controlling and you have to watch out for that, because it can spawn, it can grow into this monster.
Right, especially now if you start actually paying attention to the tracker, and now you're getting used to knowing their every move.
Yeah.
Now every time their phone rings, now you want to know, well, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Every time their phone vibrates, oh, who's sending you a text message? I mean,
and you're like, oh, you said you were going to Walmart, but you stopped at the gas station. Why you stop at the gas station?
Right.
I saw you on the tracker. You stopped at the gas station. Who's at the gas station? You're like, can I live?
And you're like, gas is at the gas station, so I can get to Walmart. What do you mean? Nobody's really meeting anyone at a gas station.
You'd be surprised.
Oh.
You would be surprised where folk and what lengths folk go to.
Because I'm just like, a gas station though, Mark?
Listen, you'd be surprised what folks be doing out here in these streets just to cover stuff up. So listen, I think this has been a really helpful one.
Oh, yeah.
I think this has been a helpful one, that if we can take some stock of the trust in our marriage and evaluate, are we doing things out of our insecurity?
Right.
Or out of our controlling tendencies?
Right.
Do we not have enough trust in our relationship? I think if we can evaluate those things through the tools that we have at our disposal, it'll actually help us build a better marriage.
I agree.
Cool with that. You got anything else?
No, I think those are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Give them the access to your passwords and stop tracking their every move.
Let's go. Well, y'all, listen, we want you to grab our book that came out this year, The Marriage Cheat Codes. It actually has some great information in there on trust.
Yes.
How you can build your trust bank account, how you make deposits and withdrawals in your marriage as it relates to trust. We think it's going to really help and bless your marriage. So go ahead and grab that. It'll be in the description right here. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already.
Yes.
Share this if you haven't shared it already. And we pray and hope that this content is blessing and is helpful to your marriage. So listen. This has been another episode of Young and Married, and we will catch you next time. Peace out.